Today, we're going to talk about a philosopher who decided that modern thought was basically a prison, and he was going to stage a breakout. His name is Quentin Meillassoux, and his work is one of the most audacious, mind-bending attacks on philosophy in, well, decades. He thinks he's found the key to unlock everything.
So let's just start with this question. I want you to really think about it. I don't mean something improbable happens. I mean, what if tomorrow gravity just stops? Or the speed of light decides to take a day off? And there's no cause, no warning, just poof, new rules. It sounds completely insane, right? Well, hang on to that thought, because that's the key to this entire escape plan.
All right, so to understand the escape, you first have to see the prison. Meillassoux argues that ever since the philosopher Immanuel Kant, we've all been living inside this massive intellectual prison without even realizing it. A prison that limits what we can even imagine is true.
Here's the deal. Kant's big move, which totally changed the game, was to say that we can never know reality as it truly is, in itself. We can only know the world as it appears to us, through the filter of our own minds. Things like space, time, cause and effect, those aren't out there in the world. They're more like the software our brain uses to process everything. So the real world, it's out there, but it's forever beyond our grasp.
And this whole setup has a name. Meillassoux calls it correlationism. It's basically the idea that we're permanently stuck in the middle. We're trapped in the link, the correlation between our minds and the world. You can't have a world without a mind to think about it, and you can't have a mind that isn't thinking about a world. They're locked in this inescapable philosophical dance.
So you end up with this massive wall. On one side, you've got the world for us. That's everything we see, touch, and understand. On the other side is the world in itself, what reality is really doing when we're not looking. And correlationism says that second world is the great unthinkable. We can't go there. And that's the problem, isn't it? Because if that's true, how can we say anything at all about a time before there were any humans to think about it?
But here's where it gets really good. Meillassoux looks at this prison and says, you know what? The walls aren't as strong as they look. He finds a crack, one single question that's so simple and yet so powerful that the whole structure starts to wobble.
Seriously? Think about it. Our scientists talk with incredible confidence about the Big Bang, about the Earth forming 4.5 billion years ago, about dinosaurs roaming around millions of years ago. These are all statements about a reality that existed way, way before any human mind showed up on the scene. So how is that even possible, if reality is supposed to be tied to our minds?
Meillassoux has this brilliant term for this kind of evidence, the archofossil. And it's not just a dinosaur bone. It's any bit of data that points back to what he calls an ancestral reality. It could be the decay of an isotope in a billion-year-old rock, or even the light from a distant star that we know died out long before our solar system was even a thing.
And this is the killer paradox, right? Science hands us solid proof of a world that existed without us, but the dominant philosophy for 200 years says that world is fundamentally unthinkable. You just can't square that circle. Meillassoux says you have to pick one. And for him, that contradiction, well, that's the crack in the prison wall. That's our way out.
Now for Meillassoux, this isn't some small little hole to patch up. This is a full-blown prison break. His plan is to go after the very foundation of the prison walls. The idea that things have to have a reason, that the laws of nature are somehow necessary. He's going to tear it all down.
And his main target is one of the oldest, most respected ideas in Western thought, the principle of sufficient reason. This is just the basic idea that stuff doesn't happen for no reason at all. Everything has a cause, an explanation. Meillassoux looks at this and says, what if that's completely wrong? What if the only necessary thing is that nothing is necessary?
I mean, let's be fair. It's a pretty common sense idea. The universe seems incredibly stable, right? You drop an apple, it falls every single time. It's like rolling a die with a billion sides, and it lands on the exact same number every single time for billions of years. What's the obvious conclusion? The game is rigged. The die must be loaded. The laws have to be fixed.
But Meillassoux flips this completely on its head. He says we're so busy watching the number that comes up, we forget to look at the die itself. For a game of chance to even exist, the die has to stay a die. But what if it didn't? What if one moment the die could just implode or turn into a sphere? The stability we see might not be a law at all, but just a really, really long, lucky streak in an ocean of pure chaos.
And this brings us to his big idea, the key to the whole thing, absolute contingency. The only rule is that there are no rules. Everything, and I mean everything, could be totally different for no reason at all. This isn't just regular chaos, like a random shuffle. He calls it hyper-chaos. It's a universe where not only the cards are random, but the deck itself could turn into a fish at any moment.
Okay, let's make this even simpler. Imagine you're playing cards. You know what's possible, right? You might get a 10 of clubs, maybe an ace of spades. You've got 52 options, a known set of outcomes. It's all happening within a predictable system.
But for Meillassoux, a truly contingent event isn't just drawing a rare card. It's the card in your hand suddenly transforming into a live dove and just flying away. That event doesn't just break the rules of probability inside the game, it shatters the very framework of the game itself. It creates a brand new possibility that didn't even exist a second ago.
So let's say we follow him. We've escaped to prison, and we're now in this wild world where anything is possible. What does that look like? Okay, buckle up, because this is where his philosophy goes from being a critique to something truly mind-bending, something that touches on justice and even hope.
Meillassoux looks back at the history of the universe and sees 3 of these impossible dove-from-a-card moments. First, the emergence of matter out of nothing. Then, the emergence of life from non-living matter. Then, thought from non-thinking life. Each one was a totally unpredictable event that created new rules. So he argues, if it happened 3 times, a 4th is always possible.
And what is this potential fourth world? Well, it's the advent of justice. But he defines justice in the most extreme way you can imagine. The literal, physical rebirth of every single person who has ever died. In a universe where any law can break for no reason, he says, there is no logical reason why this can't happen.
Now, it's absolutely crucial to get this. This is not a religious idea. It's actually the exact opposite. It's a conclusion he draws from a really radical atheism. If there's no God to set the rules and guarantee that death is final, then everything is up for grabs. As he says, if God does not exist, everything becomes fragile, even death. Without a divine rulemaker, even the ultimate rule might be breakable.
So he's very, very careful here to draw a line between this and faith. Faith is believing something will happen. Meillassoux' idea of hope is different. It's the rational understanding that a world of justice could happen. It's not likely, it's not unlikely, it's just possible. It's a hope that isn't based on belief, but on the cold, hard logic of a universe with no rules.
So he's basically carving out this amazing third path. You've got faith, which says a better world is coming. You've got nihilism, which says it never can. And then you have Meillassoux' idea, which he calls factiality. It's a kind of rational hope. It's based on the brute fact that since there's no good reason for things to be the way they are, there's also no good reason they can't become just.
And that's really where he leaves us. He's not promising anything. He's just saying, hey, the universe is built in such a way that no horror is necessarily permanent and no hope is necessarily foolish. In a world without fixed laws, maybe the only real limit is our imagination. So the question he leaves us with is, if absolutely anything could happen, what should we dare to hope for?